Welcome, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I am your host and virtual voice coach, Darcy D. And today I'm going to introduce and discuss 10 unwritten rules for singers. I'd like to thank those of you who have joined me live and acknowledge those who will be watching this on replay. It does mean a lot to me. I truly appreciate it. I've assembled some things, some approaches that I think all singers need to take. And I've boiled it down to 10. There's definitely more. There's always more. And please note that the 10 that I have selected are just a few of many so-called rules for singers. And as a rule, there are exceptions to every rule that I present today. So keep that in mind. It's sometimes we break the rules as singers, and there's many factors, that lead us to that. There are many factors that play a part in how these rules affect every individual singer, from beginner to novice to professional. The way you approach these rules will reflect the level of experience, skill, knowledge, and understanding you have of how your voice works. A singer's individual goals are going to contribute largely to how these rules apply as well. A beginner is most likely still growing accustomed to doing the silly sounding exercises and learning to adopt the correct approach to A, the scales, and B, how and when to apply them, and so on. So whereas a more experienced singer already has developed muscle memory with respect to which exercises to use to achieve the desired goal, and they will also have more stamina built up as it applies to practicing longer. Some of these rules may seem obvious, however, they can serve as a reminder that although the journey for every singer may be different, the process by which we achieve our goals is analogous. So it's something that we can pay attention to in the onset here. And then as I share some of these things, please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, because that will fuel more from me. And I have a bit of a plan today, but I'm not afraid to go off script, so to speak. And Ogma's here too. Welcome, Ogma. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah. Hello, Darcy.
Hey, how are you? How are things?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
See you.
Nice to see. I don't see you, but nice to have you here with us. There he is. So, and before we get started here, as always, please like, share, and subscribe, so you don't miss out on the tangible and specific voice building methodology that I share. I've got years of experience that I can unpack for you, and there's always something to sort of share, but it's really important to me to know what it is that you want and what it is that you think you need, so that we can get into that. Before I dive into today's list, I thought I'd preface by sharing some obvious things I do to not only care for my voice, but the body that houses it. First and foremost, your voice is part of the anatomy of your body. So taking care of your body is job one. And you've heard this a million times. You see this everywhere. Feed and hydrate. Drink plenty of water constantly. Consume nutritional food. This all really goes without saying. And never eat too much, though, before you have to use your voice. As you may know, that your stomach sits below the diaphragm, right? So this is your diaphragm, this is your stomach. And if you fill that stomach or eat too much before you have to sing, you're going to have a difficult time activating the diaphragm freely and subconsciously. A side note to that, some of the myths that I've heard other voice coaches and other singers, professional singers say, they like to eat salt and vinegar chips before a performance because it coats their vocal cords. We all know that's a myth, because nothing actually touches your vocal cords or you'll choke. So the salt and vinegar of the chip is, I don't know, coats your throat or your mouth. I don't know, but it does nothing for your vocal cords. Any rituals you have about what you do before you sing? Ice water, tepid water, hot water. Again, they do nothing to your vocal cords. So you please do whatever you want that way. And then things like lozenges. When you're feeling ill and you have phlegm and you take a lozenge, what it does is it coats the mouth, and it may make it feel good because of the medicinal properties in it, but it does nothing for your vocal cords. So the only way to properly hydrate the vocal cords is, of course, to use one of these devices, the vocal mist. There it is, right there. So one of my favorite tools. I know Chad uses this a lot too. Do hot drinks relax the muscles in the throat? I suppose, but the muscles of the vocal cords, hard to say. I want to say no, but hot drinks, especially, only the throat, and especially when you're ill. Hot drinks will kill germs. So the hot water, for example, you can just drink hot water, kills the germs. Whenever you have an infection, you can the infection leaves the body through the nose and mouth, right? So if you can assist that by killing germs on the way out, that's great. Nasal rinse. I just did a nasal rinse yesterday. I was feeling some congestion, not like ill congestion, just pollen in the air or what have you. And I did a nasal rinse yesterday twice, and I find that I almost get instant relief for that. So that works. All right, number 1, exercise. Any form of exercise does the body good. I prefer in the winter to run on the treadmill, and when the weather cooperates, I like to cycle. I do about an hour on the treadmill and an hour or more, depending on how I feel, on my street bike. But any and all cardio is most helpful for singers. Healthy lungs enable singers to sing freely. And we say this a lot, listen to your body. So, even if you're exercising, you do what you can do that day. Some days the workout doesn't feel very good, and other days you feel like you could go longer. And it's the same, because this body is your instrument. So, working on lung capacity is a good thing. Stretching balances the body. Stretching relieves pain. It can even eliminate pain. It goes without saying, but do you practice stretching? And when we talk about stretching, it can be a full body yoga stretches. I sit in front of the piano all day, and so stretching for me is I do my shoulders, I do my neck, I do shoulder rolls, I do all of these things that just loosen up, my body, so that my body is able and willing to do what I'm asking it to do with my voice. So it's all related. And the knee bone's connected to the shin bone and all of that, and on it goes. Everyone start singing. I do have good stretches for the tongue and the jaw that Chad just asked, and I guess we could get into this a little bit. I mean, if you're sitting down right now, just sit square, and make your shoulders square, and just drop your arms towards the floor. And I always like to say on an exhale, reach your hands for the floor. Just reach them for the floor, and then relax and breathe. Reach for the floor, right? It might not feel like much at the moment. You can put your arms out and reach for the walls. Like someone pulling your body into. Ugh! Hang me out to dry, right? And then you can do things like put one hand on your chest here, another one on top, press, and in a square position. You don't have to flex your back. Just normally good posture. On an exhale, lift your chin to the ceiling. Oh, you feel it stretch from your chin all the way down to your chest. You can do that as many times as you think you need to, right? And then you do it on a diagonal like this. Oh. And you can go both ways. And again, as many times as you need, right? Now, as you're sitting this way, just take your ear and with your shoulders square, reach your ear for the shoulder. Oh, yeah. And then we go the other way. This is a good one for me because I sleep with 2 pillows. Is that too much information? Oh, it feels good. Feels good. Now, you can throw your head back and roll it side to side. I think I saw Ogma doing this already. Yeah, side to side. And then tilt it forward and do the same thing. I was told by a chiropractor never to go 360 degrees around with the head. He said that's not a good one. And then another one I like is thumbs, and just between your clavicle and your ribs, and you bring your fists together, and then roll your arms out and back and around, and then touch your fists again. This one stretches out those shoulders. Ooh, doesn't that feel good? Da 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 da. Anyways, now getting back to Chad's original question, tongue and jaw. So for the jaw, if you take your wrists and you massage at your joint here, I guess for anybody with TMJ, this might be a good one. You just massage like this. You can drop your jaw, right? And another good one for the jaw is to just drop it and relax. And you'll feel the stretch, right? For your tongue, you can either take a tissue or a face cloth or just use your fingers, grab that tongue and pull it out. Breathe, relax, pull it out, breathe, relax, like this. I know that's a weird one. And then you do it side to side. The tongue apparently is one of the strongest muscles in your body, the mylohyoid. You can feel it under here when you swallow, right? It's a very strong muscle, for its size and weird slug-like appearance. So anyways, getting back to what we're doing. So stretching. So now you might feel like, you're feeling ready to go. You can stretch your whole body, legs, like the yoga poses and all that. It can't be anything but good for you, providing you can do it, right? So as a singer, you're like an athlete. And I was taught as a teacher of voice that, this is the instrument, and especially those that sing regularly or perform all the time, you have to treat your body like you're an athlete. Or one that engages in semi-aggressive physical activity. It's important to stretch and free your instrument before use. Make it part of your routine. And, just the simple exercises we did today would suffice. So on a side note, I do have plans to cover breathing and stretching for singers, but I don't want to this is for the app. I don't want to sidetrack from today's topic. So let's dive into this. Now, this one obviously may go without, mention as well, because it's just something that we've been taught forever and ever. Always warm up and cool down before and after vocalizing. Sounds really simple, right? But now, this should be ingrained into your routine already. And if you're someone who's just starting out, using your voice as a sustained speaker or a singer, you're starting out to warm up and cool down. Maybe all you do at first, your warm up and your cool down, they are like an exercise routine, and you can use it as a workout itself. So if you're someone who's still discovering pitches and how to actually use the voice, if you can get in 2 or 3 warm ups a day, I mean, I've always said that, 10 to 15 minutes up to 6 times per day, that's rock star status, by the way, is great. Now, if all you do is warm up, you're using your voice. You're getting your voice into the routine of using it. And then it will develop resistance levels that allow you to dive into more exercises, and then all the vowel consonant combinations, right? And whenever you warm up, there is never any need to use notes too high or too low. You want to get the vocal cords vibrating comfortably without strain or disconnect, using a non-articulate, not really saying anything, no open vowels kind of exercise. You can utilize middle register down or from as low as comfortable to middle register and then start over again. This way you utilize most of the vibrating mass of those vocal cords. No need to go too high where you will experience natural tension and maybe the urge to assist that pitch, thereby causing unwanted strain or fatigue. If you keep that in mind when you're warming up to exercise or warming up to sing, you want to just get everything flowing in here. And the scientific term to warming up the voice in particular it's used by bodybuilders too. It's called vasodilation. And when we do, it's activating a part of the vocal mechanism, which it is vasodilation. It is the widening of the blood vessels in this area as a result of the relaxation of the blood vessels' muscular walls. So it's a mechanism to enhance blood flow in the area, and it provides oxygen, thereby integrating nutrients. So if we're eating healthy and we're doing all the right things, we're constantly, trying to put that body into the homeostasis, where everything supports everything we do. So vocal cords, when we warm them up, they're called folds because they're not strings or cords or tissue. There's many layers. The vocal cords are many layers thick and contain these very fine blood vessels within them. When the voice is used forcefully, the delicate blood vessels in the vocal cords can actually burst open, right? And then this is where we get into trouble. So that's why it's so imperative to warm up, because usually when we sing a sustained speech form for a rock singer, for example, or an opera singer, it's quite an aggressive stance. So it's very important to warm up. So whether you are preparing to exercise or to just sing, always, always, always implement a warm up and cool down into your routine, right? And it only needs to take as long as it takes. If you're a little run down, it may take a bit longer, right? So listen to your body. Some days it takes me a while to warm up. The more competent you become with the use of your voice in a sustained speech, the easier it will be to warm up. So, sometimes it's only going to take a couple of minutes. And then, there's the other thing to it is if you're going to be exercising and you're still young in your voice development, you can do a bit of a longer warm up just to make sure everything's there for you. And if you're a professional singer and you're just getting ready to sing, well, you'll know, because you're going to know by the notes on the piano, if you can attain the note you need in the song, then chances are you're ready to go. But, try to be wary of using a song to warm up, because that's like doing, the sprint before you've stretched. And this is just something that I've learned over the years. Number 2, never stylize the exercise. So what does that mean? Style is when a singer takes liberties to accentuate the emotional value of lyrical content. When the sum total of all your vocal abilities that you've created are put to practice, right? So technically and emotionally. So when you're singing a song, it's usually fed emotionally, and you use all your technical ability to stylize that emotion. It's like, we all do this naturally as humans, especially in argument. We don't have to think about portraying our emotions or getting the point across. It really happens quite naturally, right? So we as singers, we can speak, we can yell, we can be emotional creatures, but when it comes time to sing, a lot of the times, and especially for new singers, they treat singing as something completely different than speaking. And again, singing is just sustained speech. So when we're exercising, keep it clinical, right? Keep the exercises very clinical. Do not cheat. Say each note as balanced as possible. Balance in air and muscle. Balance in breath flow and vocal cord closure, air and muscle. Balanced in volume. So this will allow you to approximate, make changes on the fly regarding how much the chords come together and how much breath flows through to activate those vocal cords. So when you're doing your exercise, just get the notes. That's it. We don't have to. There's exceptions to every rule. As the exercises become easier or even boring, as I've heard some of you say, this will be a sign that it's time to add emotional value and technical prowess. Stylize, right? So there's an exception. So then you could sing your exercises sad, right? And you can sing them happy, so you see the exception, right? And then this helps because when the brain says, okay, we're happy, mad, sad, glad, then we can start to put that style in there. But if you do it before you've memorized the process of making the noise in tune, it could get in the way. So there will be certain signs that you're developing more balance when, for example, vibrato begins to appear at the end of the lines, right? Because what does that mean? That means that this is good, it's natural. And it's probably the most telltale sign that you're on the right path, because vibrato is the sign of the badge of maturity for singers. It means we're relaxed. It means we're letting. Vibrato is natural. It happens as we hold a shape and the breath just starts to run out. And then the vocal cords oscillate. I was told by a vocal scientist once that it's also a protective mechanism built into the human body, and it just happens. So it's emotionally fed, and it takes place naturally. Okay, so number 3, and again, these are in no particular order. Never assist the pitch. As you use your voice in exercise, as you ascend the pitch or begin blending from chest to head voice, if you feel strain, do not force it. This will create bad habits of force and won't allow you to build a balanced release into your higher notes, your head voice. Right? So especially in the early stages of vocal growth, it's better to flip than grip. Excuse me. Because flipping still lands in head voice, albeit lightly connected and, somewhat flute-like. But by not physically assisting over time, you'll develop stronger resistance values and more connected tone without strain. Does that make sense? So, if you're, here, I'm gonna go here. All right. So, and this is important to know as well. So, this is the transition for basses right here, right? Somewhere this would be your mixed tone. This is the baritones, altos and tenors here, sometimes here, and sopranos. So this is the area where we all feel something at some time. And if you're one of those singers that doesn't, congratulations, you're the automatic blender. And if I had a prize, you would get it. So when you're having challenges, and if we're bouncing over the transition, like this, and say we're doing the octave, and you feel like it wants to let go, don't force it, because that's going to cause a bad habit that says strain is where I go to get this note. So when we go, and if it starts to fall apart, and slightly falsetto, we would rather have that, especially in the early stages, because falsetto still is head voice, albeit not connected. So usually what it is, it's one or a combination of your alternate concentrations. So for example, lower the larynx, I'm in, right? And I didn't have to strain, And I didn't disconnect, and that's the goal at first. So if you're having, and now the exception, remember the exceptions to the rule, if you're having challenges finding and keeping the correct pitch, there are safe ways to approach experiencing correct notes. Typically using an exercise incorporating short staccato notes. So here's the demonstration. So if I'm having a challenge and you're a constant flipper, I like to bring the tongue forward using that ugly ah sound, right? Keeping the volume the same, and we're just touching those notes. Albeit with in your mind, you could be swinging a little tiny hammer. Little tiny, could even be brass. And you're just swinging that little hammer because you can't hurt anything. And because you're touching these notes staccato, very short, what you're going to get is more of a connection and less of a sustain. So you don't have to hold it. You're not going to create any bad habits. Over time, you let the tongue come in. And if you can keep it together with the tongue just say on your bottom lip, bottom teeth, you know you're on the right track. You're getting balance here, right? Now, over time, you can even incorporate more to that by saying staccato up, legato down. Now you can feel, oh, I've got that. And especially on the legato down, the brain goes, oh, we're going down. We don't have to get too frustrated, right? So you're tricking the brain. So you hear what I just did there. My first demonstration was dopey, right? Now, if I go slightly bratty, now what I've done is I've helped my vocal cords thin out using that slightly raised laryngeal position. And sometimes it's difficult to find. And so somewhere between ugly ah and neutral larynx, normal speech level position is that place, right? And we all have to experiment with how to get there. Now, if you don't have to hold or sustain the notes, it's easier to get them on that staccato stance. Each note gets the same attention, you strive for balanced volume, and you can be a little more aggressive for a short period of time, then rest and repeat. So the rule of thumb, warming up, learning exercises is apply what you do and digest it note by note, and then you assess it so you can record yourself, listen back, and assess what you've done, and make apply any changes you need to get, in other words, tongue forward, lowered, raised larynx, changing the vowel, all the different things that we can do, and then repeat. Apply, digest, assess, rest, repeat, rest, memorize, expand range, build power, repeat, right? So dorky exercise, that's what it's for. Everybody with me? Any questions on this? All right. Number 4, know your limit. Sing within it. What does that mean? You will not expand your vocal range or gain more dynamic control going outside of what your current vocal capabilities are by forcing the process. Exercise within your current vocal range. Build stronger resistance, ease and presence, and gradually your range will increase. You will be able to sing louder, longer, thus increasing your vocal limits. I know in the app I overstate that when you're engaged in a workout and find yourself in that place in the register where ease and balance can't be sustained and you get the urge to push or your voice just lets go, either stop and restart or fast forward until the scale is descending and it feels comfortable again, right? There's going to be exceptions to all of these rules. Now, in exercise, you want to make sure that you don't sing outside of your limits. You'll get to a place where you get through your transition regularly. You're building resistance values. You can sing a little bit louder. You can sing a little bit longer. You can sing softer without letting go and having it fall apart. So you've got different levels of resistance with the breath flow and the vocal cords coming together, that you've got this balance. And if you want to lean in and press down, Press down. Everyone knows what that what the term press down means. So it's the feeling we have when we're singing big, loud, belting, and yet it's very comfortable. It's the feeling you have. It's not actually what's happening. So if I'm able to be louder without strain. It's not falling apart, and I could even press down more. I could press down to a little bit of over compression, start to growl and get the gravel in it. And this is, so when you first start singing, you're asking your voice to do things that you don't do in speech. And you're asking your voice to do this in a sustained fashion over a period of time, each line in the song. And then you're adding emotional value, which sometimes, imitates anger. What I do say sometimes is put a little mad on it. So instead of, forcing it inside of your vocal abilities, just put some mad on it. So, for example, if I'm going bub 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 bub, and say this top note was bub bub, if I just put a little, like I'm trying to get someone's attention across the parking lot, bub 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 bub, and for that short period of time, ping, I get the note. I get to the note. Does that make sense? So that's the exception. But if you're working on something smoother, and it wants to fall apart, don't get mad on that, because it's going to turn into that wee, and that's going to be squeezy, right? So it really depends on what you're saying too. Now listen, if you're working on something, a song or some exercises, and you notice you're having some of these challenges and you're not quite sure how to align your concentrations to balance it, reach out to me. And if need be, send me a short video of the challenge, and let's have a look at it. Because the sooner you confront these issues, the sooner you'll get through whatever challenge you're having. And it could be as simple as our next item up for bids here. Number 5, anchor and or establish your starting notes. So start each exercise adducted, connected, not too light, not too heavy. This will enable a more balanced sound throughout the phrase. So no need to stylize yet, right? The goal of every singer as they build their voice is no strain, no disconnect. Singers are vocal weightlifters or resistors. What do I mean by that? So if I'm here and I go, sounds pretty good. Oh no, where did my voice go, right? So I wasn't anchored enough on that bottom note. The scale is only 5 notes. Do, re, mi, just so. If I anchor that first note, just say it. Oh, now I find my way through. Does that make sense? This is very true of a descending pattern. So we put the weight back to the bottom. In bottom voice, the vocal cords are bigger. They vibrate slower. There can be more breath flow. And in chest voice, in the lower register where we speak, it can seem to take more weight, bigger vocal cords. The higher we sing, the more those vocal cords converge to that smaller, longer, more natural tension. And it's either you're going to connect and blend, you're going to pull, or you're going to flip. So we want to anchor the notes in the exercise so that we establish a connection and then navigate from there, right? So in the short 5-tone scale, that might be a little bit more difficult than, say, the 1 1/2 octave, where we get to take a run at said transition or concentration place. Does that make sense? This next rule is, we'll call it number 6, digesting every note. What does that mean? We're not eating anything. We want to digest the muscle memory for every note. When learning scales, start slowly to ensure the pitch and the onset of each note is correct and balanced. Chad got it right. Don't allow yourself to skip the process, right? It's imperative to develop the habit of creating strong vocal habits. So repeating the scales slowly in the onset, if you have to, or even if you're an experienced singer and you just find that something's missing, a couple of notes seem out of balance with the rest, or I seem to be skipping a note in that little riff, repeating the scales slowly ensures a better onset and faster muscle memory development. So, like Chad said, the deep practice exercises, such as the ones in the app, contribute to accurate pitch and coordination of your concentrations. Over time, you'll be able to speed up the scales and execute every note without fault. This is a very valuable tool when being able to riff and run is one of your goals, right? So, and I think most every genre on the planet has the common thread of R&B running through it. So, pop, country, rock, gospel, R&B, definitely, because that's what it is. But so there's the ability to maneuver your voice. It's not that some people have it; it's that person worked for it. Some don't have to work as hard as others, but some of us have to work extremely hard to get that smooth execution of each and every note in the scale. So that's why those deep practice exercises work so well. And also in the app, you can slow down those scales if you have to. You can speed up those scales. So, use your tools to activate and build that voice. The process of finding each and every note is also a very useful method when learning new songs. So, you start by, getting the lyrics in front of you, finding out your breathing points, and then working on the melody, say with a non-articulate exercise, so that the source where the sound comes from, we can identify the notes and where we have to position the instrument to get to those notes, and so you can do that slowly, and you can do it repeatedly and in chunks if you have to. And if it's a riff in the song, this is so valuable. So if you get in the habit of doing this with your exercise, then it'll be easier to apply this to when it's time to get into song, right? Is that making sense? All right, now, some words to remove from your vocabulary. Number 7, from your vocal vocabulary, you're going to remove these words: reach, push, squeeze, strain, hit. Hit's the big one. I have had debates with other voice coaches about the word hit. Well, you're just hitting the note. But what does it mean to hit? It's force, right? You're hitting something, and it means that I may get it, I may not get it. Oh, I hit the note. Is it supposed to be an accident? These words imply force or abuse and can lead to unfortunate consequences and fatigue the voice, right? I like to remove I was taught years ago by other coaches that I trained with, don't even say those words, right? It's very powerful when you think this way, because ultimately creating bad habits if you use them. Replace those words with go to. That's one of my favorites. I'm going to this note. Get the note. That implies I'm going to get that note. It's right there. Say it. Say it louder. Say it louder. Own it. Demand that note, right? Because that's demand. I demand that I sing that note. I'm going to get that note. Command, command performance. What does that mean? They owned every note. There was so much emotional value on there. You were swallowing hamburgers. They commanded it. Enforce. That's the only force word I use is enforce. Enforce good habits. Enforce correct stimulation to the brain to get the note, right? Enforce. I'm going to repeat this correctly go to, get it, say it louder, own it, demand it, command it, and force those rules. And what that will do is habituate, right? I will habituate the process in which I practice. I will habituate the way I get to notes. I will habituate how I repeat those notes. And it's in the habits that we create in exercise that become the tools in the belt we use as singers. And like a skilled electrician, you'll just be pulling your tools out without even thinking about it, right from your tool belt. So you can use all of these things, and I think it will really work for you, if you apply and get rid of those things from your vocabulary. Those words, they're not useful. You can press down, you can adduct, or close those vocal cords, and you can release, right? So when you press down, when you adduct, close those cords. When you release, different levels of resistance, right? So you're habituating this whole process. And I think I might have said this at some point. If you ask an opera singer how they sing an A, they will ask you which one, right? Because they're going to sing this A different than they sing this A and this A, right? The approach to get to all the notes in your register is varied. It's varied by emotional value. It's varied by your vocal limitations. It's varied. So you have to learn to approximate all of these things and all of these rules. And I thought that this would flow or segue very nicely into my next one. Number 8, don't commit to a song too early. Now, I know this one seems like it doesn't make any sense because we all sing, in the car, in the shower, we all sing. But when we start to train the voice, now we're learning to use the voice in a very balanced manner. We're activating concentrations that we didn't know existed, and it's wise not to attempt to sing songs before your vocal range covers the notes needed, right? So, and if you look at a lot of songs, they're usually an octave, especially like musical theater songs, right? Somewhere, right? So there's that octave, and if you think that the majority of voices have maybe 2.5 octave ranges, then if you're attempting to sing a song or a cover song, you have to make sure you have the notes required to sing that song. So you check the lowest and the highest notes. So can I go sa? Got it. Got it. Okay, so I can probably sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow in this key comfortably, right? So you check the notes. Now, if you don't have a piano and you're not a piano player, you can just get a little app that's got a piano on it. Make sure you've got the notes for that song, and after you've checked, and to be sure that it's in your vocal range, you can handle it. If you can't, then you're going to have to do things to augment your ability to sing that song. It could mean that maybe you're not ready to sing that particular song yet, or maybe you're not ready to sing the bridge of that song yet, right? So maybe it's back to the drawing board in the way of exercise to build that voice to a place where you have that connection in that part of your register, even in the key that works best for you, right? And I think human nature says is that when you see a singer almost struggling to get to the note and they get it, it's like you're rooting for them. That's where everyone applauds. Oh, they got the note, right? And we all want that, and we can all have that. The next one, number 9, select the correct key for your voice. Always be sure to sing the song in the correct key for your voice. This could mean lowering the key by 1 or 2 semitones, right? So if it's in D, we might go D flat, we might go C, right? It could also mean, and contrary to what one might think, raising the key a semitone or 2. right? So now it's going to be up here in E instead of D. And the reason that this happens, or the reason we do that as singers, and I find when I work with female singers, this is quite often the case. We got to raise it. And they're like, what? Because sometimes the big notes are right in the transition. And it's on a vowel shape that says, that's going to be a fight. So if you raise it a semitone or a whole tone, now the big note is just in head voice. And we've got this ability now to work our way through, and the whole song is going to work because now the lowest note isn't as low, right? And then again, it could be lowering. It depends on how big the jump is. Don't get into this this mindset either. Oftentimes singers will say, "Oh, I'm going to sing this in the original keys," so the listener is going to be impressed. But if this causes you to strain or reach, it most likely won't be all that impressive, and you may end up butchering the song, right? So don't be afraid to change the key, because the person you're imitating, the person that originally sang the song, for example, just might be, a very small person with a really high voice, or a tall person with a really deep voice, and you're trying to emulate that. It's not going to be conducive to you maintaining balance. But the exception to that rule is you can alter the melody to suit your voice, right? So this can personalize your version. So if it's a really high part, you find an alternate note to go to. And I know, even Chad and I have worked on some of his original material. And we get into making melodies that work for his voice. And quite often, it really works, and sometimes he doesn't like it. But you find what works for you. And the other thing about altering the melody of a cover tune is that it puts more of a personal spin into the song. You get to personalize the song. It's now your version. So remember, whenever you sing a song, it is actually your song, because you're the one telling the story. Whether you wrote it or not, you're relaying that message. So that's what you need to do. And number 10, create a routine to vocalize. It is paramount, no matter where you are in your vocal journey, that you commit to using your voice regularly. Even if you can only find 15 minutes per day, stick to it and use your voice. You have to treat it like if you were an athlete and training for a marathon and you decided you weren't going to run for 3 days or work out for 3 days, or it's not going to be of benefit to you. But if you could find 10 or 15 minutes and stick to it and use your voice, you may only have time enough to warm up and do a partial workout, 1 or 2 exercises. But in time, you'll find it'll become easier, if not addictive, to using your voice, because exercising is singing to some degree, and singing is therapeutic. So warming up the voice 2 to 6 times per day, if that is all you can do, is better than not using your voice at all. 10 to 15 minutes of deliberate, intentional exercise, even just once a day, is more beneficial than an hour of hit and miss exercise. Strain and disconnect. The benefits of creating the discipline of practice will start building habits of success. If you don't cheat and you follow some of the guidelines mentioned above, you will experience growth in coordination, balance, pitch, range, dynamics, and emotional value that will lead you to your style. Does that make sense, everyone? So everything we do supports everything we do as singers. And the more you do it correctly, the faster you'll develop your abilities, and the faster you'll start to be able to self-adjudicate and make the corrections based on your voice, because you're not comparing yourself to other singers. You're comparing yourself to where you were yesterday, where you were last week, right? And what you're dealing with today. So all the things that you're going through in life are going to affect your voice, the stresses and worries and woes of life. But singing can also be one of the remedies for those stresses and worries, right? You can give yourself some therapy just by exercising, just by singing. And then when you break through those walls and you find that you're getting the note and you've extended your range and it seems to be getting easier, and now I can do this, I couldn't do that before, those wins will keep you going. And the one thing I've learned as a coach is that I vowed to never, ever give up on anyone, because one day that happens. You smash through the wall and you open up another level. It's like peeling the onion, right? Not that I do that very often, but it's a good analogy. So when I say, we have a question, when I say don't cheat, do I mean don't force? Yes, that could mean don't force. That could mean don't let go. That could mean don't skew the note, don't skew the vowel, right? So, and quite often that happens in, I'll do it. So let's just say I'm doing a broken arpeggio. So if I'm la 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 la, and some of the notes are kind of like hit and miss, you do it slower, right? Don't cheat. La 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 la, and then you'll become more fluent in that flow, right? You're not cheating. Now, if it's finding the note, then you're going to use something slightly aggressive, maybe and short. If it's holding the note, then maybe you're going to repeat it twice. La, because supply and demand. If suddenly I have to hold the notes longer or sustain the line longer, then I'm going to rise to that occasion. Chad asks how we describe the difference between release and letting go. Release and letting go. Okay, so if I am, we know that this is my transition, so this is my belt zone. This is also the place where I could let go, whether on purpose or because I don't have the coordination to stay connected yet. So release is when, if I'm going, that is not released. That is a fairly heavy connection. Now, if I release, what I'm going to do is I'm going to relax the grip of the vocal cords and then use the breath flow accordingly to hold that note in position so it doesn't fall apart and doesn't let go. So, that is very released. Very easy, right? But it's not falsetto. It's not let go. So if I'm, that's let go. So another analogy that I learned from one of my coaches years ago, and I've used this one like it was mine. It's the analogy is flying a kite. And if you've ever flown a kite, what are some of the factors that you need? You need the kite. And then when the kite's in front of you, it's quite large. That's like chest voice. It's right in front of you. And then you have the wind, or in this case, the breath, which holds up the kite, holds the note. So as long as the breath flows, we have that sustain. What holds it all together is the string represents the connection we maintain to the note or the kite. And then to go sing higher, I don't grip the string harder, right? It's not going to go higher. I have to release the grip on the string. And it goes higher. It seems to be smaller, just like our vocal cords seem to be smaller when they converge for higher positions. And the tension is not going to be much more, but you're going to feel a little more tension the higher that kite gets, provided there's wind or breath, right? And then to reel the kite in, I just bring it back down. And I never let go of the string. I release the grip on the string, but I never really squeeze it because then it's not going anywhere, but I don't let it go. That would be like flipping into falsetto. And then the kite's gone and you got to climb a tree and get it. and start over again. So release and letting go. Release allows us to go to higher positions, and then we can reel it back in. Letting go, you no longer have the connection, and for most singers, we no longer have control. So a lot of male singers at first, when they go into head voice, it's falsetto, right? Some have very, very strong falsettos. And for a lot of rock singers, head voice means I'm going to have to shove this, and I'm going to mean it, and there's a little angst attached to it anyway, so it seems to work, right? But if you exercise like you are a classicistic singer, which means you're going to be looking for pure vowels, accurate pitch, all the things that you want, then you'll be able to take liberties when you go into song. No matter what genre you sing, the exception for every genre is that, and especially in pop rock music, you're going to sing half right half the time in song. But when you come back to your little rehearsal space, your studio, you're going to be as clinical as a surgeon in what you do to exercise. So then now, that's not to say that letting go is bad. Letting go and exercise is a good practice to not let go and exercise, because then you learn to stay connected throughout the working, portion of your register, and then maybe expand that range. And then if you have the ability to go into a falsetto, ultra high notes, that's going to add to your stylistic approach to singing and song. The Justin Timberlake, the Jonas Brother, Adam Levine singers that have such wonderfully strong falsettos, right? And then in the case of female singers, Ariana Grande and the Christmas song singer, Mariah Carey, with their whistle tones and their higher notes. I mean, it's all how they've approached it. And you bet your boots that these singers are disciplined exercisers. You have to be disciplined in a lot of this, so that you can take the liberty when you're singing song and performing, right? So, vocalizers, thank you so much for joining me today. It is always my intention to provide creative content that makes a difference for singers. If you found this useful, again, please like, share, and subscribe. It is very much appreciated. I'd like to remind you that the Virtual Voice Coach app is available wherever fine apps are sold. There you'll find a more comprehensive assembling of effective voice training methodology at your disposal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right? I'm always here if you need me. Reach out, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Thank you again for joining me. Remember, sing for yourself.